The first time my father erased me, it was over a cracked iPhone screen and a grocery store pregnancy test I was still hiding in my coat pocket, and I stayed quiet even as something in me broke. He called it protecting the family name, but why did it feel like he was racing to bury me before I could say one sentence out loud? My name is Serafina. I am 29 years old, and I work in commercial debt acquisitions in Chicago. Back then, I was 18 and freezing in my parents' dining room, the kind with a long table nobody was allowed to eat at unless there were guests. My mother had lit those tall taper candles like we were in a magazine spread. There was a roast in the center. There were linen napkins. And there I was, sitting on a chair that felt too fancy for my shaking legs, staring at my father's hands as he carved meat like nothing in the world was wrong. I kept thinking, if I say it softly, he will soften too. If I say it carefully, he will ask if I'm okay. I didn't even get the chance. He stood up so fast his chair scraped the floor. His face went hard, like a switch flipped. "You are a liability to this family name," he said, pointing at the front door with a finger that trembled from anger. "And you are out of the will." No questions. No concern. Not even the courtesy of pretending. My mother didn't look at me. She stared at her plate like she could disappear into it. My little brother, Kieran, stared at the candles, eyes wide, like he was watching a car accident in slow motion. My father didn't ask who the father was. He didn't ask if I was safe. He didn't ask if I had somewhere to go. Instead, he leaned close enough that I could smell his aftershave and the wine on his breath, and he hissed, "You think you can embarrass me after everything I've built?" Everything he'd built. That phrase used to sound like pride. That night, it sounded like a threat. I swallowed the truth that burned my throat, because the truth wasn't just that I was pregnant. The truth was that I had opened a letter 2 weeks earlier that wasn't meant for me, and I'd finally understood what my father had been doing with my name. I kept my voice calm. I kept my face still. I didn't cry, even though my eyes stung so badly it felt like sand under my eyelids. I reached under my chair and slid out a small gift box wrapped in plain brown paper. It looked harmless, like something you'd bring to a neighbor. Inside it were 3 years of mail I'd been collecting in silence. Final notices, past due statements, photocopies of forms, pages and pages with my social security number typed at the top and my father's signature in the wrong places, forcing my name onto debts I never agreed to. I set the box on his placemat, right next to his carving knife. The candles flickered. My father's eyes dropped to it, and for the first time all night, his mouth didn't have words ready. He knew what it was. He just didn't expect me to be holding it. I stood up slowly. My knees wobbled, but my voice didn't. "You don't get to throw me away like trash," I said, quiet enough that my mother could pretend she didn't hear. "Not when you've been using me like a credit card." His jaw clenched. His eyes flashed, not with shame, but panic. And that was the moment I understood something ugly. He wasn't disgusted by my pregnancy. He was scared of my paperwork. I walked out into the snow with my coat unbuttoned and my hands numb, not because I was brave, but because I had run out of fear. That night I slept in my car behind a closed strip mall, the kind with a dark nail salon and a bakery that never opened on time. The heater coughed warm air in weak bursts. I pressed my forehead to the steering wheel and whispered to the tiny life inside me, "I'm not letting him ruin us." In the morning, I tried to rent an apartment. I still remember the smell of the leasing office. Burnt coffee, lemon cleaner, and that stale carpet odor that clings to places where people get judged. The woman at the desk smiled at my belly first. Then she typed my name into her computer. Her smile faded. She looked at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen like she was hoping it would change. "I'm so sorry," she said, voice suddenly careful. "Your credit is it's not something we can work with." My stomach dropped. I had savings. I had a steady job at a daycare. I had a letter from my manager. None of it mattered because the screen said I was untrustworthy. I left and sat in my car in the parking lot until my hands went stiff on the steering wheel. And that's where the second twist hit me, not the debt itself, the pattern. My father didn't just put one loan in my name. He had made me his escape hatch. When he couldn't get financing under his own company, he used me. When his cash flow got tight, he used me. When his equipment leases started defaulting, he didn't sell his truck or skip his country club dues. He forged me. He even told people I was helping with the business, like it was a sweet father-daughter thing, like I should be grateful, like the crushing weight on my chest was just me being dramatic. For weeks, I lived out of my car and showered at a gym I couldn't really afford. I ate crackers and peanut butter and pretended that was normal. I went to work and smiled at toddlers while my life quietly burned. And the worst part was the shame, the silent kind, the kind that makes you keep your head down because you're scared everyone can tell. My daughter was born in a county hospital room with peeling paint and a nurse who held my hand during contractions like she was the only family I had left. I named her Lily because I needed something soft in my life. I promised her two things while she slept on my chest. 1, she would never watch me beg a man for mercy. 2, the person who stole my name would eventually have to live without his. That promise didn't make me feel better immediately. It just gave me a direction. I worked 2 jobs. I learned to breathe through panic. I called lenders and said the words identity theft until my mouth went dry. Some believed me, some didn't. I paid what I could, disputed what I couldn't, and kept a folder of everything. Then I started noticing something. Every time I called a bank, the person on the other end sounded tired. Not angry, tired. They weren't villains. They were people staring at numbers, trying to make quarterly reports look clean, trying to keep their jobs, trying to move bad debt off their desks. And that's when the third twist arrived, quietly, like a thought you can't unthink. If banks wanted bad debt gone, then bad debt had value. I took night classes. I learned how commercial lending worked. I learned what a personal guarantee was. I learned how liens moved like invisible chains. I learned that a desperate borrower will sign almost anything if you give them a deadline. Most importantly, I learned that the world doesn't punish people like my father unless you use the system he trusts. 7 years passed. 7 years is a long time to stay angry. But it is also exactly enough time to become dangerous in a way that doesn't make noise. By 29, I wasn't the girl in the strip mall parking lot anymore. I wore tailored suits and walked into boardrooms like I belonged there, because now I did. My office sat above the financial district, all glass and steel and quiet hum. Some mornings, I put my palm against the cold window and remembered my old steering wheel, cracked and sticky with fear. Then I turned around and did the work. I specialized in distressed commercial paper, bad loans, defaulted notes, unpaid equipment leases. The things banks wanted to forget. I bought them at a discount and collected them with patience. One afternoon, my analyst slid a file across my desk. "This one's interesting," he said. The name on the folder made my vision sharpen like a knife. Dawson Hall Construction. My father's company. He had rebranded since the day he threw me out. New logo, same arrogance. Same business model built on charm and shortcuts. The numbers inside the file were bleeding. Late payments, vendor complaints, loans stacked on top of loans. He wasn't growing. He was drowning while pretending he was swimming. And tucked into the paperwork were the last things he still had power over. His house. His accounts. His reputation. I didn't smile, not because I wasn't satisfied. Because satisfaction makes you sloppy. I built a spreadsheet for 6 months, line by line like a quiet prayer. Which banks held which notes, which loans had cross-collateral clauses, which vendors were close to filing claims, which insurance payments were delayed, which project was behind schedule but still being billed as on time. It wasn't a hit list. It was a map. Then I did something simple. I started making calls. One bank officer after another sighed into the phone. "He keeps promising a big payout." They'd say, He keeps asking for extensions. I never insulted him. I never said my father's name with emotion. I spoke like a professional woman talking about an asset. I can take the note off your books, I offered. 65 cents on the dollar, clean transfer, fast close. They thanked me. They thanked me like I was saving them. By the time the ink dried, my company owned the majority position in his debt stack. And my father still had no idea. He thought he was fighting the economy. He thought he was unlucky. He thought he could charm the next lender like he always had. He didn't realize his lender was his daughter. A week later, my attorney called. He's requesting a meeting, he said. He wants to negotiate. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling, letting the silence stretch. Because negotiations are where men like my father get sloppy. Schedule it, I said. Tell him the window is tight, 48 hours. My attorney paused. Why? Because panic makes people sign without reading, I said, voice calm. And I need him to sign something. That night, I set the room. Not my office, not my name. A neutral suite rented under a shell company, a polished mahogany table, a laptop positioned just right with a small green light glowing, a microphone, a clean binder with tabs, everything designed to make him feel important. And me. I watched from the adjacent room, behind dark glass, with my heart beating steady and cold. The video feed flickered. The door opened. My father walked in first, suit slightly looser than it used to be, stress carved around his eyes like permanent parentheses. But the swagger was still there. He tossed his coat onto a chair like he owned the place. Then the second figure stepped in behind him. And my stomach tightened so hard it felt like I couldn't breathe. Because the man carrying my father's briefcase wasn't an employee. It was my ex, the father of my child. The one who vanished the moment my belly started showing. He looked older, softer, like life had fed him well for betraying me. He avoided the camera instinctively, like guilt has a smell, and he was trying not to inhale it. My father laughed, voice loud in the microphone. "These people move fast," he said, mocking the suite like it was a stage built for fools. "No due diligence, no nothing, they want our brand." My ex chuckled nervously, trying to impress him. I stared at the screen, fingertips resting on the edge of my desk. So that was the fourth twist. He didn't just steal my name. He kept my ex close, like a pet, like a proof of power, like a reminder that everyone in my life could be bought. My attorney walked into the room, calm and polite, binder under his arm. My father didn't even stand. He opened the binder and flipped pages with greedy impatience, eyes scanning for the number like that number was oxygen. And when he found it, he smiled. He didn't notice the clause tucked beneath the offer. He didn't notice the witness line. He didn't notice that the paper he was about to sign would not save him. It would end him. Quick real-life pause. Some nights I'm editing and I want to quit, but then I see your comments and I keep going. Like, subscribe, and tell me your city, state, or country. All right, now let me take you back. Because the reason I needed my father to sign wasn't just money. It was proof. 7 years earlier, when I found those forged guarantees, I learned something about predators in suits. They don't fear being called a liar. They fear paperwork that forces the world to agree. That binder on the table wasn't a loan agreement the way my father thought. It was a trap built from his favorite thing in the world. His own signature. My attorney checked his watch. "We need this signed in the next 4 minutes," he said smoothly. "Wire window closes at 4. My father's eyes narrowed, suspicious for the first time. He flipped back a page, scanning dense paragraphs. My heart thudded. He was reading. He wasn't supposed to read. My attorney didn't rush him. He didn't beg. He didn't explain. He just let the silence do what silence always does to arrogant men. It made them feel in control. My father glanced at my ex. "We can't miss this," he snapped. "Payroll's due." My ex nodded quickly, too eager, too desperate. My father's hand, hovered over the signature line. The pen tip trembled slightly, and in that tiny hesitation, I realized something terrifying. Men like my father don't fall because they're stupid. They fall because they believe they're untouchable. My attorney slid the pen closer. My father swallowed once. Then he lowered the pen toward the paper. The pen touched paper, and my father's name bloomed across the signature line like he was autographing a trophy. He didn't pause to read the footnotes. He didn't ask why the witness block needed 2 names. He just signed, then slid the binder toward Reed with a sharp little nod. Reed hesitated. I saw his fingers hover over the pen like it was hot. My father leaned back in his chair and smiled at him, slow and smug. "Do it," he said, "unless you want to explain to me why you're suddenly nervous." Reed swallowed. He signed. 2 signatures, 2 egos, 2 men who thought silence meant weakness. In the next room, my mouth went dry anyway. Because revenge looks clean on a spreadsheet, but in real life, it still hits your body first. My heart thudded once, heavy, like a door locking behind me. I stared at their faces on the screen, waiting for the moment they realized the air had changed. They didn't. My father capped the pen like he'd just closed a deal with the universe. "Now we wait for confirmation," he said, and he actually laughed. It was the same laugh he used to give me when I asked him questions as a kid. The laugh that said I was cute for thinking I mattered. Reed shifted in his seat, trying to look useful. "Shouldn't we at least verify the lender's identity?" My father waved him off without looking. "You worry too much." Then he turned to my attorney. "Tell your people in Zurich to send the wire, and make sure it hits today. I'm not paying another late fee on payroll because some suit wants to feel powerful." My attorney didn't sit down. He didn't smile back. He didn't even blink. He simply placed one hand on the binder, keeping it closed, and said, "Before we proceed, I need to confirm something for the record." My father frowned. "For the record?" "Yes." My attorney's voice was polite, almost bored. "You are affirming that the collateral schedule attached to this agreement is accurate as of today, correct?" My father rolled his eyes like it was an annoying formality. "Correct." "And you are affirming," my attorney continued, "that the equipment listed is in your possession, free and clear of repossession notices, and not previously pledged to any other creditor." Reed's head snapped up. For the first time, I saw fear flash across his face. Not guilt, not empathy, fear, because Reed knew. Of course he knew. He had lived inside my father's lies long enough to recognize the shape of a trap when it started asking questions. My father didn't notice. He waved again, impatient. "Yes, yes, yes, free and clear, whatever." My attorney nodded once. "Thank you." Then he reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thin folder, the kind that looks harmless until it lands on the table with weight. He slid it across to my father. My father's smile tightened. "What's that?" "A courtesy," my attorney said. "Photographs, time-stamped, from yesterday." My father's fingers opened the folder. I watched his eyes move left to right, move down, stop. The camera feed captured the exact moment his skin changed color. His face didn't go pale all at once. It drained in stages, like someone pulling a plug. The photos showed his yellow excavator parked behind a chain-link fence at a repossession yard outside Joliet. The same excavator he'd promised as collateral. The one he'd listed in that binder like it was still on his job site, still earning him money. There were more pictures. A crane, 2 trucks, all tagged, all impounded, all gone. My father's jaw worked once, as if his mouth forgot how to form words. Reed leaned in, squinting, then jerked back like the page had slapped him. "Dawson," he whispered, "those are ours." My father snapped the folder shut. "No," he said too fast. "Those are old, that's from months ago, we got them back." My attorney didn't argue. He simply opened the binder, flipped to a tab, and placed his finger on one sentence. My father read it. I saw his pupils tighten. A warranty clause. A clean, deadly line that said if the borrower misrepresented collateral, the agreement triggered immediate default. Not in 6 months, not in 30 days, immediately. My father looked up, eyes sharp now, not confused, calculating. He tried to recover with anger, because anger had always been his favorite shield. "This is ridiculous," he barked. "We're in negotiations with the yard. It's a misunderstanding." My attorney nodded like he'd heard that word 1,000 times. "Understood, but you signed an affirmation that it was free and clear as of today. That affirmation is now false." Reed's face turned slick with sweat. He glanced toward the door, then toward the laptop like it might save him. He was realizing the green light wasn't a fancy Zurich observer. It was a witness. My father's voice dropped. "So what are you saying?" My attorney's tone remained steady. "I'm saying the agreement is already in default." My father slammed his palm on the table. The sound cracked through the microphone and echoed in my skull. "Then void it," he snapped. "Void it and we walk away. You don't get to play games." My attorney didn't flinch. "That isn't how this document works." My father's nostrils flared. "Then what is it?" My attorney looked directly into the laptop camera, like he was speaking to someone my father couldn't see. He said, "It is enforceable." A beat of silence followed, the kind that makes even loud men hear their own heartbeat. My father's eyes narrowed. "Who are you talking to?" My attorney didn't answer him. He simply raised his phone, typed 2 words, and placed it back in his pocket. In the next room, my phone buzzed with a single message. "Now." My hands were steady when I stood. I surprised myself with that. 7 years ago, my knees would have buckled. 7 years ago, I would have been praying someone would rescue me. Now I was the rescue, for myself, for Lily. I walked to the door between the suites. The hallway carpet muted my footsteps. The building smelled like fresh paint and expensive air freshener, a place designed to make men like my father feel safe. I paused with my hand on the handle. And for one brief second, I let myself remember the dining room candles, the roast, the placemat. Then I opened the door and walked in. The boardroom went still, like someone had cut the sound. My father's head snapped toward me with irritation first, like I was a staff member who had interrupted him. Then his eyes locked on my face, and irritation collapsed into something else. Recognition. It hit him like a punch. His mouth opened, but no sound came out at first. His throat moved like he was swallowing glass. Reed's chair scraped back. He stood halfway, then froze, because he didn't know what to do with his body. He stared at me like he'd seen a ghost. And maybe he had. Because the version of me he abandoned wasn't supposed to come back dressed like this. I wore a dark blazer that fit perfectly. My hair was smooth, controlled. My posture was straight. The kind of straight you earn when you've slept in a car and promised yourself you'd never fold again. My father's voice finally found itself. "Serafina," he said, and it came out rough, like the name tasted wrong in his mouth. I didn't smile. I didn't glare. I simply walked to the empty chair across from him and sat down. My father's eyes flicked to my attorney, then back to me. "What is this?" he demanded. "What are you doing here?" I rested my hands on the table, palms down, calm. "I'm here for the same reason you threw me out," I said softly. "Paperwork." Reed's throat bobbed. "Serafina," he said, trying to sound friendly, trying to sound like he hadn't vanished from my life the moment it got complicated. "Listen, we can talk about this. We can do this privately." I turned my eyes to him, slow. I didn't say his name. I didn't need to. I let the silence answer for me. His face tightened, because he remembered what silence did. Silence makes men like him fill it with whatever truth they're trying to hide. My father straightened, pulling his power back around him like a coat. "If you think you can scare me with some cheap stunt," he began, "you have no idea how this world works." I tilted my head slightly. "You're right," I said. "I didn't scare you with a stunt." Then I slid a thin envelope across the table. My father stared at it without touching it. "What is that?" "Open it," I said. His fingers trembled as he did, not with age, with anger, with fear. Inside was a single-page printout, a simple corporate filing. At the top, in bold, ownership disclosure. My father read it. His eyes moved, stopped, moved again faster. His lips parted. Reed leaned forward to see, like he couldn't help himself, like he was addicted to knowing where the power was. My father whispered, "No." I spoke calmly, each word clean. "VM Holdings is mine." My father's chair creaked as he leaned back, his face contorted, trying to decide which emotion to wear. Disgust would have been his usual choice, but he couldn't afford disgust right now. Disgust is for men who are still in control. So he chose rage. "You bought my debt," he spat like it was a curse. "Yes," I said. He slammed the paper down. "That makes you what, my partner? My investor? You think this gives you a seat at my table?" I let a small pause linger, not dramatic, just long enough for him to lean into his own arrogance. Then I said, "It makes me your creditor." His eyes twitched. A micro movement, a crack. Reed's voice came out thin. "This is insane. This can't be legal." I looked at him. "You only say that when you're on the losing side." My father shot Reed a glare like he was useless. Then he turned back to me and his voice dropped into something colder. "If you're doing this for revenge," he said, "you're wasting your time. I can refinance. I can restructure. I can outlast you." I leaned forward slightly. "You already tried to refinance," I said quietly. "That's why you're sitting here." He snarled, "Void it. We'll claim miscommunication. We'll litigate." My attorney finally spoke, voice calm. The borrower waived litigation remedies. My father snapped his head toward him. "Shut up. This is family." I looked at my father. "It stopped being family the night you pointed at the door." Reed suddenly exhaled a shaky laugh like he'd found a new angle. "Okay," he said. "Okay, Serafina, you want leverage. Fine, we can negotiate. There's a child involved. Lily, we can keep this reasonable." The name hit me like a cold splash. Lily. My daughter's name in Reed's mouth felt like theft. My father's eyes flicked to Reed, and something passed between them. A silent signal, a familiarity I didn't like. A new twist sliding into place. They had planned something. Reed reached into his briefcase and pulled out a folded stack of papers. He didn't hand them to me right away. He held them like he was holding a weapon. My stomach tightened, my voice stayed even. "What is that?" Reed's smile returned, practiced, slick. "You came in here thinking you were the only one who could play quiet," he said, "but you've been gone a long time." My father watched me with eyes that were almost calm now, too calm. Reed placed the papers on the table and slid them toward me, careful, like he wanted me to read every word. At the top, I saw a court seal. My fingers didn't move yet. My body was listening for danger the way it used to in parking lots at night. My father spoke, voice low. "You can have the company," he said. "You can have the accounts. You can have all of it." He leaned forward, eyes locking on mine. "But you're not taking my granddaughter away from me again." My skin went cold fast. Reed's voice softened like he was pretending to care. "Temporary custody order," he said. "Emergency filing effective today." I stared at the seal. Then I looked up at him, slow. He held my gaze and smiled wider. And in that smile, I saw the boy who once promised he'd never let me face my father alone. The boy who turned into a man, willing to use our child as collateral. My father tapped the table once, like he was calling a waiter. "You have a choice," he said. "Unfreeze my accounts and walk away from the debt, or you spend the next year in family court while I tell everyone you're unstable, while I paint you as the woman who vanished for 7 years and came back to destroy a business." Reed added, almost gently, "And I'll be the stable parent, the one with the support system, the one with the money." I didn't touch the papers yet, because if I touched them, it would become real in a way I wasn't ready to feel. My throat tightened, my chest burned, but my face stayed still. I let them think my silence meant panic. I let my father think he had finally found the right weak spot. Then I reached into my own folder, pulled out one sheet, and placed it on the table between us. Reed's eyes dropped to it. Confusion flickered. My father's eyes followed, and for a second he didn't understand either. It was a bank notice. Simple, official, stamped. Account freeze order executed. The time in the corner was 4 minutes earlier. I watched my father's eyes dart. I watched him connect the dots slowly. Reed's smile faltered. He swallowed. What is that? I spoke softly, almost kind. That, I said, is the part where your plan starts falling apart. Reed's fingers twitched toward his briefcase, like he wanted to grab his phone, call someone, fix it. My father's lips parted, and for the first time since I walked in, he looked truly afraid. Not of losing money, not of losing status. Afraid of losing control of the story. Reed's voice cracked just slightly. You can't freeze my money. I met his eyes. I didn't freeze your money, I said. I froze his. My father snapped. That's my personal account. I nodded once. I know. Reed's face went blank, then flashed with realization. Wait, he whispered. The retainer. My father's gaze shot to Reed, sharp. What retainer? Reed didn't answer him. He was staring at the paper like he could rewrite it with his eyes. I leaned back in my chair and finally, slowly, reached for the custody papers. My fingertips touched the corner. My father's breath hitched like he thought he'd won. But when my eyes scanned the first paragraph, I saw something that made my spine go cold in a different way. Because the affidavit attached wasn't just claims. It had a signature line at the bottom. And the signature was Reed. It was my father's. He had signed a sworn statement, calling me unstable. He had signed it today. Meaning he had lied under oath today. Meaning the man who had always told me paper was power had just handed me a new kind of power, without even realizing it. I lifted my eyes to him, slow, and I let him see that I had noticed. His face tightened. Reed's voice came out small. Serafina, he said, like he could still reach the version of me that used to beg. Don't do this. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten. I simply asked one quiet question, the kind that makes liars choke. Which judge signed this? I said. Reed blinked. What? I tapped the page lightly. Which judge? I repeated, calm. Signed an emergency order based on a sworn affidavit from a man who is, as of 4 minutes ago, in active financial default and under a freeze order. My father's eyes widened. Reed's mouth opened, then closed. Because the truth was they had rushed. They had cut corners. They had assumed I'd panic. And now their own paperwork was about to turn on them. I slid the custody papers across to my attorney without looking away from my father. My attorney took them, glanced once, then raised his eyes. He didn't smile. He simply said, "This is going to be a problem." My father's voice turned sharp. "No," he snapped. "You don't get to do that. You don't get to touch that. That's my granddaughter." I stared at him, and my voice stayed low. "She is my daughter," I said, "and you just tried to buy her with lies." Reed's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at it, and whatever he saw drained the rest of his color. His voice came out as a whisper. "My lawyer," he said. "He's calling me." My father snapped, "Answer it." Reed's fingers shook as he hit speaker. A man's voice filled the room, tense and clipped. "Reed," the voice said, "your retainer check bounced. I'm withdrawing. Do not contact my office again." The line went dead. Reed stared at the phone like it had betrayed him. My father's head turned toward Reed slowly, like a predator realizing its own dog had failed. "What did you do?" he hissed. Reed's eyes flicked to my father, then to me, and I watched his confidence crumble into desperation. And in that moment, I understood exactly how this was going to end. But I also understood something else. They weren't done yet. Because my father's face hardened again, and he pushed his chair back with a sudden scrape. He stood, towering, trying to fill the room with his size, trying to turn this back into the dining room where he could point at doors and make people disappear. He leaned over the table toward me, voice low enough to sound like a secret. "You think you're smart," he said. You think you're untouchable, but you still have something I can ruin. His eyes flicked toward the custody papers in my attorney's hands, then back to my face. And he smiled. A thin, cruel smile. Security, he called toward the hallway, loud now. Get her out. My attorney stood calm. Mr. Hall, this is a private suite. You do not control security here. My father's smile widened. I don't have to control security, he said. I just have to control the narrative. And then the door behind me opened. Footsteps entered, heavy and fast. I turned my head, and my stomach dropped. Because the man who walked in wasn't building security. He wore a county badge. And he was holding a sealed envelope with my name on it. The deputy's words were calm, almost routine. Ma'am, are you Serafina? He held the sealed envelope out like it weighed nothing. My father's smile stayed on his face for half a second longer, like his brain was still trying to force the world to obey him. Then it slipped. The mask cracked, and what showed underneath wasn't outrage. It was calculation. Because my father did not invite police into rooms unless he thought they were his. Reed took one step forward, palms out, playing polite. Officer, hey, thank you for coming. It's a misunderstanding. She's emotional. We're handling this privately. The deputy didn't look at him. He didn't even shift his stance. My father's jaw tightened. This is a business meeting, he said. She's trespassing. I want her removed. My attorney's voice stayed level. This suite is under my client's lease. No one is trespassing. The deputy blinked once, slow, then turned his attention back to me. I have service for you, he said, and I need you to confirm your identity. I felt my pulse in my throat. Not panic, not helplessness, just adrenaline sharp and clean. I had expected something like this because men like my father always reach for the loudest weapon when they start losing. Police, courts, shame, they do not fight fair, they fight familiar. I kept my voice steady. What kind of service? He tapped the envelope. Court documents. Reed's eyes flicked to my father quick. A silent question. Is this ours? My father's lips parted as if he was about to answer, but no sound came out. The deputy's gaze stayed on me. Ma'am. I nodded once. That's me. He handed me the envelope. The paper was thick. The seal was red. The kind of seal that makes your stomach think of handcuffs before your brain catches up. I didn't open it right away. I looked at my father instead. His face was stiff, eyes narrowed, trying to read my reaction like it was a contract he could exploit. He wanted to see fear. So I gave him nothing, not even a flinch. Then I broke the seal. The first page was not what Reed wanted it to be, not what my father wanted it to be either. I read the header once, then again, just to let the words settle in my chest. Petition for order of protection, emergency custody clarification, temporary stay on removal. My name was at the top, as petitioner. Reed's breath caught. What is that? He said, voice too loud, too fast. My father's eyes widened just slightly, a micro crack. He understood suddenly that this deputy was not here to help him. I flipped to the second page. Signed, filed, effective immediately. My attorney stepped closer and glanced at it. His mouth tightened in approval, like a man watching a chess move land exactly where it should. He reached out, not to take it from me, but to turn the page and show the deputy the clerk's stamp. The deputy nodded. Yes, ma'am, that's why I'm here. You're served, but you are also protected under the order pending hearing. No one is removing the child today, not without a judge's review. Reed's face went slack. That's not possible, he whispered. I already had an order. My attorney looked at him like he was looking at a child holding a broken toy. You had a paper, he said, and you had a lawyer until your check bounced. Reed's eyes darted. That was a banking issue. My attorney didn't raise his voice. It was an insolvency issue. My father snapped, voice suddenly sharp with panic. This is absurd. She vanished for years. She is unfit. I have sworn affidavits. The deputy's eyebrows lifted. Sir, I'm not here to litigate fitness. I'm here to serve documents and keep the peace." I continued flipping pages. And then I found the part that made the room truly cold. A separate service packet clipped behind mine. Notice of criminal complaint, bank fraud, identity theft, perjury referral. Defendant, Dawson Hall. My father's name sat there in ink like a verdict. His face didn't change at first. His eyes just locked on the page like he could unsee it. Then his throat moved, slow, like he was swallowing his own heartbeat. That's not real," he said, but it came out thin. "You can't do that." I didn't argue. I didn't accuse. I just turned the packet around and slid it across the table toward him. On the top page was a list of exhibits. 3 years of forged notices in my name. Collateral misrepresentation from today. Signed affirmation from today. Witnessed by today. Recorded by today. My father's eyes flicked to the laptop on the table. The little green light still glowed. For the first time since I walked in, my father looked like a man trapped in his own body. Reed tried to speak. His voice shook. "This is revenge. This is her trying to ruin you because you wouldn't marry her." My stomach turned at the audacity, but my face stayed calm. The deputy's eyes narrowed slightly. "Sir, do not speak for her." Reed's mouth snapped shut. My father leaned forward, hands on the table, trying to put force into his posture like force could rewrite paper. "This is my daughter," he said. "Family, she's confused." My attorney's voice stayed steady. "Family does not exempt fraud." The deputy shifted his weight, then looked at my father. "Mr. Hall," he said, "I also have service for you." My father's lips parted. "What?" The deputy reached into his folder and pulled out a second envelope, then placed it on the table in front of my father like he was placing a plate in front of a customer. My father stared at it. His finger twitched. Then he grabbed it and tore it open with a rage that was too late to be useful. His eyes moved across the page. I watched his breathing change, shorter, faster. Because the paper in his hands wasn't civil. It was a notice to appear, and a temporary restraining order related to financial conduct, plus instructions for asset preservation. In simple words, the system was telling him to stop moving money, stop moving property, stop hiding. The system was telling him he was being watched. My father looked up slowly. His eyes landed on me, and for a moment, I saw the version of him that existed before pride, before greed, before he started treating my name like a tool. For a moment, he looked human. Then he hardened again, because pride is a disease, and he'd been sick for a long time. He turned his head toward the deputy. "She is manipulating you," he said. "She's unstable." The deputy didn't flinch. "Sir, this is court process. The court does not issue these based on feelings." Reed's voice came out raw. "Serafina, stop. Think about Lily. Think about what this does to her." That name hit my chest again, but this time it didn't knock me back. It anchored me. I looked at Reed and spoke softly. "I did think about her," I said. "That's why she is not at home. That's why she is not at school. That's why she is already safe." Reed blinked. "What?" My father's head snapped toward Reed. "What did she just say?" I didn't smile. I didn't taunt. I simply reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. One message from my best friend, Sienna. She had been my quiet backup plan for months. The kind of friend who doesn't ask for drama, just coordinates logistics and keeps her mouth shut. The text read, "Lily is with me. She's eating mac and cheese. She's okay." Reed's face drained. "You took her," he whispered. I corrected him without emotion. I protected her. My father's voice rose. "You can't hide my granddaughter." The deputy held up one hand. "Sir, under the petitioner's emergency order, the child's location is temporarily confidential. You will get your hearing date through counsel." My father's eyes flashed. "Counsel?" He laughed once, sharp and brittle. "I don't need counsel." My attorney's voice cut in calm. "You do now." Reed tried again, desperation turning him sloppy. "You think the judge will side with you? You disappeared. You withheld her from me." I stared at him. "You never came looking," I said. "Not once, not even when she was born." His mouth opened, then closed, because there was no clean lie he could use that wouldn't sound like what it was. My father leaned forward toward me, lower now, voice aimed like a blade. "You always were dramatic," he whispered. "You always wanted to punish me for being strong." I met his eyes. "You are not strong," I said quietly. "You are just loud." Silence dropped. The deputy glanced at his watch. "Ma'am," he said to me, "I'm going to ask you to leave the building now for your own safety and to comply with the civil process atmosphere." I nodded. I was already leaving. My father's head jerked up. "No," he snapped. "She's not leaving until she fixes this, until she unfreezes accounts, until she makes this go away." My attorney took one step closer to him, voice still calm. "Mr. Hall, you waived that right when you signed." My father's face twisted. "Signed what?" My attorney didn't need to answer. The binder was still on the table, heavy and closed, like a coffin. My father's eyes darted to it, then to me. And I saw the exact moment his brain replayed the signature. The pen, the flourish, the witness. He had been so proud of it. Now he looked like he wanted to tear his own hand off. Reed's voice cracked. "We can still negotiate," he pleaded. "We can still work something out. You want money, fine. You want the business, fine. Just don't take Lily from me." I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said, "You never had her." Reed flinched, as if the words physically hit him. My father tried a different angle, because he always did. He softened his face, like he was putting on a costume. "Serafina," he said, and he tried to make it sound like love. "Just talk to me, we're family." I felt heat behind my eyes, the kind that wants to become tears. But I swallowed it, because my tears had fed him once, and I would never feed him again. I stood. I gathered the documents calmly, placed them back in my purse, and looked at my attorney. "Call the court clerk, confirm the hearing time, then call the school. Let them know Lily's pickup list is updated." My father's voice shook with fury. "You think you can rewrite everything I built?" I turned toward the door, then paused. Because there was one more thing. One last twist I had saved, not for drama, but for finality. I reached into my purse and pulled out a single sheet of paper, then placed it on the table in front of my father. He stared at it. It was a deed transfer form, not fully executed yet, but notarized in preparation. The property was the building we were standing in. And the buyer name listed on the line was not VM Holdings. It was Lily Hall Trust, with me as trustee. My father's mouth opened. Reed's eyes widened, because he finally understood how deep this went. My father's voice came out hoarse. "Why?" he whispered. "Why would you put it in her name?" I looked at him, and my voice stayed soft, almost gentle, because sometimes the cruelest thing you can do is be calm while you end someone. "Because you stole my name," I said, "so I built hers." The deputy opened the door for me. I walked out without rushing, without shaking, without looking back. In the elevator, I finally let my breath out. My hands trembled just a little, not from fear, but from the release of 7 years of holding my life together with pure stubbornness. When the doors opened in the lobby, my phone buzzed again. A new message from Sienna. "Lily wants to know if you are coming to tuck her in." My throat tightened. I typed back 3 words. "I am coming." Outside, the snow had started again, soft and quiet, like the world was trying to erase footprints. I pulled my coat tighter, stepped into the cold, and realized the last thing my father ever gave me was a signature that destroyed him, and he did it with a smile.